Hello, welcome back to Visionary Fragrances. My name's George. About 2 months ago, I did a first impressions video of this. This is the new Parfums de Marly's HALTANE, Harrods exclusive, launched at the end of 2021. Now, I did a first impressions, and originally when I first smelt it, I compared it straight away to Initio's Oud for Greatness. Now, we are 2 months later now. I've had this fragrance for a while, I've worn it a few times, and now I'm ready to give you more of an in-depth review and a comparison of Oud for Greatness. So this video is going to be about the similarities, the differences, the performance, and which one I prefer between Parfums de Marly's HALTANE and Initio's Oud for Greatness. So stay right there and enjoy the video. We're going to start with Parfums de Marly's HALTANE. So in the opening of HALTANE, you've got bergamot, lavender and clary sage. The bergamot gives this a real fresh, juicy opening, a zinginess, and makes the fragrance pop. So you've got a real freshness in there, and the clary sage and the lavender really add to that and really aid the bergamot in giving that impression. As you move into the dry down of HALTANE, you're going to have a sweetness in there, and now the sweetness comes from the note of praline. I haven't smelt many fragrances with praline in. One of the ones that comes to mind and one that I really enjoy is Angel Share by Kilian. In that you can really smell the praline. It's really kind of obvious, and because you know it's in there you can find it and pick it out no problem. But with HALTANE, I can't pick out praline that clearly. There's definitely a sweetness in there that smooths out the oud in the base notes, but you couldn't say for sure that it was praline, and it's not as kind of lifelike and as obvious as it is in Angel Share. Now in the mid of HALTANE, you've also got Saffron. Now because of the praline, which gives it a sweetness, and the Saffron, this slightly reminds me of Baccarat Rouge 540. Now I'm not saying that these two smell the same. If you sprayed Baccarat Rouge 540 on one hand and this on another hand, they smell completely different. But because of the airiness, because of the sweetness, and the saffron, you can just slightly get that Baccarat Rouge 540 vibe if you are looking for it in HALTANE. Now if you mix that with the oud in the base, you've got a lovely oud base similar to Oud for Greatness. It becomes a light, airy, sweet version of Oud for Greatness, and that's what I thought in my first initial impressions of HALTANE, and that is still what I think now. Now as you move into the dry down of HALTANE, you're still going to have the subtle freshness of the bergamot, you're still going to have the subtle sweetness of the praline, but the base notes are going to be very similar to Oud for Greatness. And it's not crazy to think that some of the same ingredients are used. After all, Initio and Parfums de Marly are part of the same brand, they're under the same umbrella, so it's not crazy to think that maybe the same DNA is used. And to my nose and in my opinion, Parfums de Marly's HALTANE and Oud for Greatness in the dry down are 80% similar. Moving on to Oud for Greatness, in the opening you've got nutmeg, lavender and saffron. In the mid or heart of the fragrance, you've got the oud, and in the base you've got patchouli and musk. So the difference between this and HALTANE is this hasn't got the fresh, zingy opening that HALTANE does. And actually, I find Oud for Greatness to be very linear. Now what I mean by that, it doesn't really change. So when you spray it on for the first time, you hit with the beautiful, rich, spicy oud that you get in Oud for Greatness, but it doesn't really change as it goes through the life and the stages of the fragrance. Whereas HALTANE starts off with this zinginess that pops with the bergamot. You've got the praline, the sweet praline dry down. Then it goes into the base of the spicy oud, which is comparable to Oud for Greatness. So this only has for me, the spicy oud, the saffron at the top, and doesn't really change as you progress through the life of it. Now we're going to move on to a very important question, and that is the performance of these two fragrances and what performance I get from them. For the price, I was expecting more from this, I will be honest with you. HALTANE, it's not a bad performing fragrance by any means, but it's not a beast mode. It doesn't really last that long. I say you're going to get around 6 to 8 hours and a slightly soft projection. It's definitely not going to be anywhere near a beast mode fragrance, but on the other hand, Oud for Greatness I find to be a very strong performing fragrance. This will last you 10 to 12 hours. The projection will be a lot heavier than the Haldane, and so for that reason I would always prefer this. But I think if we're looking at comparisons and why you might not want to have Oud for Greatness, if you loved this DNA but you found it to be too strong and you wanted something more subtle and more sweet, I think that's where this comes in to be valuable, and this is why you would buy Parfums de Marly's Haldane over this. To sum up, I think for the price that you would pay for Parfums de Marly's Haldane, especially as it's a Harrods exclusive, you're looking at around £290 for 125ml. I do think that it's overpriced. For that kind of money, I would expect something to be unique, and we can't say it's unique because we know it's got similarities to Oud for Greatness, and we know it's got similarities in a sense to Baccarat Rouge 540. We know that it doesn't perform all that well because it's will last 6 to 8 hours, and also Oud for Greatness performs better. So if you take those into account, I would say that it's not good value for money, because I would expect something to perform longer and be more unique. The only reason I would recommend Haldane to you over Oud for Greatness is if you thought this was too in your face. If you thought that it didn't have enough sweetness and wasn't fresh enough, then I think that if you absolutely loved this DNA and you didn't want to spend your money on anything else, I think only then could I recommend this as a fresher, sweeter, worse performing alternative to Oud for Greatness. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I think it's obvious from this video that my choice, if I was only buy one, would be with Oud for Greatness. I think it just ticks all the boxes for me, and it's better in every sense than Haldane. But please let me know down in the comments which one you would choose. Have you tried both of them? Do you have a preference? And what do you think of Parfums de Marly Haldane? Guys, thank you so much. I'd really appreciate if you subscribed and help this channel grow. It would really help me out, and I will see you soon in a few days with another video. Take care.